This is CBC Late Night News.
Good evening, I'm Marivelle Tarouk. A 4-year-old boy is fighting for his life at Sick Kids tonight after a hit and run in the city's East End. Police say a motorcycle struck the boy near Victoria Park Road and St. Clair Avenue East at about 1:30 p.m. And now they're searching for the bike's driver and a passenger.
Do the right thing to come forward, get a lawyer, get some advice, disclose it to somebody if you have to, but ultimately turn yourself in to investigators so we can conclude this as quickly as possible.
Police have released photos of the suspect. The passenger is believed to be a white, blonde female wearing a black helmet and dark pants. The man is described as a white male with a similar helmet. Investigators believe they were on an orange or red Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Our Taylor Simmons has more reaction from the scene.
Arif Chowdhury says the little boy hit is his nephew.
I heard that motorcycle hit and run.
Chowdhury says he found the boy's mother cradling him in her arms just outside his home. Paramedics say the boy went in and out of consciousness as they transported him to hospital.
I seen is a severe injury on the head. Yeah, this one is like a swallow, and here also feel damage. Yeah, and the blood coming on from the nose and from the mouth.
The accident happened in the early afternoon. Debris from the collision littered on the busy street. Police aren't sure how the boy ended up on the road.
Child was dragged for some distance, and eventually the child came to rest on the right side of the roadway, and the motorcycle continued.
Police say the male driver of the motorcycle left the scene and the female passenger fled on foot. Many residents in the area did say speeding is a problem in their neighborhood.
The street is getting busier every day by day, and especially the motorcyclists.
This is a speed zone, as far as I can see.
We spoke to a gentleman at the house behind us, and he was home at the time of the incident and caught it on some surveillance tape, which he's now handed over to police.
Police did say earlier this afternoon the boy had died from his injuries, but later found out he'd pulled through.
Yeah, so that's information that we're going to work through, and it came, I'm not going to sort of point fingers at this point. The most recent we have from Sick Kids Hospital and the doctors there, and we've been in touch with the family, is that the boy is suffering from critical injuries, I guess is the way you would put it for now.
While the investigation continues, police say the family has asked for prayers from the public for the boy's recovery. Anyone with information or footage is being asked to contact police. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Toronto.
2 former Liberal cabinet ministers will reveal plans for their political future tomorrow. But CBC News has learned that Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott will not be running for the Green Party. Both ministers will hold separate news conferences to announce their intentions. Wilson-Raybould in British Columbia and Philpott in her riding of Markham-Stouffville. They have been sitting as independents since being asked to leave the Liberal caucus. They could decide to run as independents in the fall election. As Attorney General, Wilson-Raybould tangled with the Prime Minister and his senior staff over the prosecution of SNC-Lavalin and the impact that might have on thousands of Quebec jobs. Philpott quit in a show of support for Wilson-Raybould. And that's a live look at Toronto's skyline. The CN Tower lit up in Raptors red, celebrating our team after they made history last night, beating out the Milwaukee Bucks to win the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time ever. And that excitement could not be contained. The city erupted with fans spilling onto the streets of this city to mark the milestone.
We see a true north, strong and free.
From the streets to buses and even police cars, fans belted out everything from "Oh Canada" to Raptors chants. The screaming and the singing could be heard even from condo towers around downtown from as far as 40 floors up. And despite the rowdiness, Toronto police say no one was arrested. From the unflappable Kawhi Leonard to the affable Kyle Lowry, the players who made history for the Raptors last night each had their own moments of celebration. Have a look.
To their first NBA Finals. 19 points, 12 rebounds, and Kyle Lowry knows they're that close. 24 seasons in the making.
You're going to the NBA Finals for the first time in your career. That's not bad.
That showed you what type of team this is.
Advance to their first ever NBA Finals. We got the best fans in the world.
If you know the history of the team, you know this is a big moment, this is a big step, and at the end of the day, you don't want to do too much, but you got to be proud of yourself and proud of the city.
Yeah, we know we have a great group of guys who really believed it since day one of training camp, that we're on a mission, that we could do something special, that we could make history, and I think from that day forward, we just continue to work each day towards that goal.
Again, I think I told the team before the game, I said, I don't know a lot, but I know you guys have earned every bit of being in this game on your home floor, and they have been diligent, they've been smart, they've been really tough. That's it.
I'm not satisfied. Our goal is to win the NBA championship, and we're just going to keep getting better and plugging away.
I don't think we'll ever get tired of seeing those highlights. And of course, all that excitement continued into today. Our Natalie Nanowski has more on a city still reveling.
They still can't believe what they're seeing.
That's going to be on replay all day.
Barber Lowell Stevens has been behind the Raptors since they first hit the court in '95. And before yesterday's game, he even stopped into church.
It's one of the first things, like, Lord, protect me, forgive my sins, let the Raptors win.
The Toronto Raptors are headed to their first NBA Finals.
And lightning did strike. The city is still floating on that high.
And it was just no words. You just have to feel it. You gotta let it overwhelm you.
Raps fans have a breather for a few days before the next wave of excitement, no matter where they watch.
We have the ritual now that we all watch it together.
The next game is Thursday here in Toronto, with the Raptors going up against the Golden State Warriors.
But the Raps have their work cut out for them. The Warriors are NBA champs 2 years running. Still, those in the know think Toronto has a good shot.
When you look at their playoff performance against Orlando, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, they just keep getting better and better. Their defense has been stellar, and offensively, I think they're really figuring it out.
The team's momentum over the last few years has only raised the sport's profile in the country.
Basketball was already the fastest growing sport amongst our youth.
With an All-American Stanley Cup, the Raptors have become Canada's team with this year's historic run.
The focus is going to be on Canada for the next 2 weeks. It's the first time that the NBA Finals is going to be played outside of the United States, so that's a big deal.
It's certainly a big deal back at the shop.
You know what? It's so funny. They're not good enough to be in the finals. They're good enough to win.
We'll find out starting Thursday. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
City officials continue to keep a close eye on Lake Ontario water levels. Toronto is under a shoreline hazard warning, with levels edging closer and closer to the highs we saw in 2017. And as Farah Morali tells us, we are just days away from when those levels are expected to peak.
You could call it the perfect day for a Woodbine Beach stroll. Sun high, winds light, temperatures in the 20s. What you don't see? There's actually less beach than usual. The Toronto and Region Conservation Authority says Woodbine Beach, among others, has been shortened, all because of unusually high water levels.
So the water level, the 24-hour average water level on Lake Ontario here locally in Toronto was about 75.86 meters. Now, by comparison, that's only 7 centimeters shy of the record levels we saw in 2017.
The TRCA says a shoreline hazard warning is still in effect, and days like yesterday didn't help. 28 millimeters of rain fell on Saturday, but that wasn't the only problem.
Adding to that, the impact of these strong winds, and that's where we're seeing this recipe for very, very high waves and high levels, and in that case, we're seeing erosion.
The biggest concern is still Toronto Island. Strong winds caused large waves to breach sandbanks Thursday night.
There's an excitement and nervousness, I think. It's a little bit scary.
It's stoking fears we could be headed for another 2017, the summer of record-breaking floods. How concerning is it that we are approaching these 2017 levels that, of course, had huge impacts on the city and, of course, the islands?
Well, we have been anticipating reaching these levels, and we've been working very closely with our municipal partners, including the City of Toronto, to try and deploy mitigation measures as much as possible in order to help mitigate against these impacts. The thing to remember, though, is that mitigation measures really help against still waters, but when we get these high waves, it's very, very difficult to brace against those because they contain a lot of energy.
What that means, city officials are hoping for less days like Saturday and more days like today, especially because water levels are expected to peak over the next week. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Certainly was one of those glorious spring days today. Rachel Schutzen joins us now for a look at the weather, but still really precipitation and winds also very much a concern.
Absolutely. And, you know, people on Toronto Island, they've been bracing for this because they know the story. Water goes where it wants to go. And as these water levels rise, you're right, it is concerning, especially with those winds. So the good news is it was a glorious day today, as you mentioned, and overnight tonight, not expecting any rain. Into tomorrow, same kind of story. You wake up tomorrow morning, Monday morning, the winds are nice and light, 13 degrees in Toronto, and we jump into the afternoon and we're up to 20. We're looking at a beautiful day tomorrow. More cloud cover building as we go throughout the afternoon and evening, and that's because we do have another system coming in. So high pressure is fading away, moisture building back in. The good news with this is the heavier rain will be down towards Windsor and London, so away from downtown Toronto. But remember, we are seeing the inflow rate from Erie into Lake Ontario. That's higher than the outflow rate. So even though the heaviest rain isn't falling in Toronto, we still feel that influence when these big systems come through. So about 10 millimeters of rain for Toronto, upwards of 15 to 25 down towards Windsor. And when I come back, I'll talk about the other systems that are expected to roll through this week and what kind of pattern we'll be into next weekend.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Rachel. Strengthening alliances abroad and rivalries at home. The latest from the U.S. presidential trip to Japan after the break. U.S. President Donald Trump spent his second day in Japan on the golf course and taking in a sumo wrestling match. It all came amid bilateral trade talks and the possibility of U.S. auto tariffs. Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe spent almost the entire day in each other's company, starting off with golf before having lunch and dinner together. Lunch included double hamburgers with American beef. They dined later in a traditional Japanese barbecue house. Then it was off to the Tokyo Grand Sumo Tournament. Abe is widely seen as trying to cultivate a close relationship with Trump. Trump presented the winning wrestler with an oversized trophy he says he paid for himself. The final polls have closed in Europe's parliamentary elections. Hundreds of millions turned out to vote, the highest number in 25 years. The stakes for these elections were high. They have been largely portrayed as a battle between the pro-European establishment and its challengers. And projections suggest mainstream parties have lost some ground, with the anti-immigrant far right gaining support. But pro-EU parties are slated to win about 2/3 of the seats, and the center-right European People's Party was the biggest winner with 180 seats. 50 years ago today, John Lennon of the Beatles and Yoko Ono installed themselves in Montreal's Queen Elizabeth Hotel. Their 7-day bed-in was a call for world peace as war raged in Vietnam. It has since become a landmark in contemporary music and contemporary activism. Sarah Levitt looks back at that week.
I'm using my money and my time to promote peace.
50 years ago, John Lennon, side by side with Yoko Ono, explained why they were shacked up in a Montreal hotel.
The money runs out, the time runs out. We should have peace by then.
Peace was the motive, and all week, media, celebrities, and hangers-on came and went from the room. Almost all the while, Lennon and Ono remained in bed. Among those journalists asking questions, the CBC's Fred Langen.
I think they might think I'm going to hot up the revolution. You know, I want to cool it down.
You're against revolutionary violence too. I like your song.
I'm against violence, you know, period.
Whether it's
violence begets violence.
He was against war and in favor of peace. And so he was making a statement. And I think that from there on, he became more of an activist, a writer, rather than just a pop singer.
It's from this very bed that Lennon recorded the iconic song Give Peace a Chance. 50 years later, the song is more popular than ever. Montreal recording engineer André Perry was the man in charge of capturing the song on tape.
After reflecting on this thing 50 years later, one can only say that it's the people that kept it alive. It's the people that wants to keep it alive. So it's beyond John Lennon. It's beyond any of us.
Tonight, it's Carmel Marcé who will sleep in the bed. A self-described Lennon superfan, he booked the room for this night 2 years ago.
Thank you, John and Yoko. All my life, I think peace and love is the good thing, is the best thing.
A message that Massé says still resonates to this day. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
We have told you about how Toronto is roaring with excitement over the Raptors' trip to the NBA Finals. But the team's success is exciting fans and inspiring players right across the country. CBC's Kayla Hounsell has that story.
Every day after school, these kids show up at the community YMCA to play basketball. But before they even hit the gym, they stop to check their NBA pool.
We got the Raptors. We got the Raptors in the finals.
It's something program director Stephen Nelson created to keep them engaged.
This is where they stop, they congregate, they talk about the last night game, the game tonight, the game tomorrow, and it's just great to watch.
The reality is the kids don't need much encouragement to talk about the game these days. The Toronto team is pretty much all they're talking about.
They're putting Canada on the map, I guess, so people are going to start to look more to Canadians for some basketball things now.
16-year-old Christian Johnson Beals says the team's success in the Eastern Conference Final inspires him.
It just makes me want to improve, get to that level, be able to play with those guys.
The Raptors making international headlines is also helping staff here at the Y enforce the values they try to teach every day. Hard work, persistence, dedication.
Those guys aren't there just because they come into the gym once a week. They work hard. They work 7 days a week on their game. And that's how hard you need to work to reach that level of basketball expertise. And you must put the same amount, equal amount of effort into your schoolwork.
He says watching the Raptors play gives the kids a vision.
Got it!
Across town at Dartmouth High, they're also keeping a close eye on the Raptors.
It brings me a lot of motivation because, it's local. It's not like I'm trying to go somewhere far like America or overseas or whatever. It's right here in Canada.
And no matter where they play, they all have the same favorite player.
Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard.
It's Kawhi Leonard!
One player, it seems, inspiring a generation of players far beyond Toronto city limits. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Hey, this Raptors fan was one of hundreds of dogs that came out to Woofstock. We'll take you to the largest festival for dogs in North America after the break. It was a beautiful Sunday here in Toronto, and dog owners from all over took advantage of it at Woofstock, the largest festival for dogs in North America, held at Woodbine Park. Take a look.
You take a look around and there's so many different breeds here. It's so much fun. It's a perfect day to come out and have some fun, meet some more of our friends. Our corgi groups are coming out today.
We're a regular here with Woofstock since he was born, and we're looking forward to coming probably every year as long as he's alive. We've been coming since it started, about 15 years ago, I don't know.
At least 15 years ago.
At least 15.
We just love dogs. It's a fun day out. So much shopping, and it's exciting. We look forward to it every year.
Cuteness overload, I gotta say, Rachel, and it was the perfect day for everyone to get outside and enjoy the weather.
It was amazing, and how can you not smile looking at those dogs? The
No,
dog with
you're
the
right.
hat and the holes for the ears? That's amazing.
Yeah, totally. I'll take them all.
Yeah, almost as amazing as this weather. Perfect dog walking weather today, and especially into tomorrow as well. 20 degrees for the daytime high, incredibly comfortable into Monday. Light winds as well, but it is an easterly wind developing, so that is going to cool us down a little bit as we go into Tuesday. Now, what you need to know is later into Monday, really more of an overnight thing into early Tuesday morning, we get our first round of rain this week. And I say first because I want you to be prepared for a fairly active week. We're not talking huge soaking rains, but the type of week where you're going to say, it's raining again. The sky is gray again? Yeah, that's going to happen here. So about 10 millimeters of rain in the GTA. That's Monday in through Tuesday. The cloud cover is going to hang around into Tuesday morning and then slowly fade away, but expect to see a wet commute into Tuesday. 14 degrees. There's that easterly wind, so that's cooling us down. And those easterly winds can be problematic for Toronto Island as well and helping, unfortunately, that flooding situation. So this is the system here that we're dealing with on Tuesday. See it fade away, but this boundary, it sort of hangs on, and this boundary hanging on will be bringing us a couple more rounds of rain. So we're likely to see some showers as well as we go into Wednesday, a little bit into Thursday, and then Friday. Friday is looking pretty okay in my opinion. 21 degrees, you got lots of sunshine, and then slightly above seasonal into Saturday. So still some sun to look forward to.
Okay, thanks, Rachel.
No problem.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. We're going to leave you with a look at the celebration for the birth of Buddha at Mississauga Celebration Square today. Have a great night, everyone.